People don't vanish the way films teach you to expect. They don't always scream. They don't always fight. They don't always leave anything behind that makes sense to a stranger. Most disappear the way dust disappears in a room you don't use. Quietly, routinely, as if the world simply decided it had room for less of them. I didn't understand that until I started following the same number everywhere I went. 11:57. It began as a coincidence, the kind you shrug off, a timestamp on a missed call, a microwave clock that wouldn't stay set, the time on my dashboard whenever I checked it by habit. Then it stopped feeling like chance. Because when a number keeps finding you, you start noticing how often time is used like a warning. The first time I heard about Harrows' Edge, it wasn't in a video or a forum thread. It came in a message from my cousin Lewis, short, blunt, and written like someone was afraid of the screen itself. If you come, don't stay past midnight. You need to see what we've been living with. No emojis, no jokes, no LOL, just that. And then another line, like he'd nearly decided to delete the whole thing. Don't arrive late. Don't arrive close. The timestamp on the message read 11:56 p.m. I replied immediately, twice, 3 times. I called him, straight to voicemail. I tried again at dawn, telling myself it was just one of his moods, one of his strange phases, the kind of thing he'd get obsessed with and then laugh about later. But Lewis didn't laugh after that. Lewis didn't answer at all. I left the cafe with the feeling that I'd stepped into a story already halfway through. Outside, the sky was dimming fast. Not sunset, something heavier. The streets were empty now. Curtains drawn. Doors shut. Harrows' Edge was preparing. I followed Mrs. Harper's directions without checking my phone. There was no signal anyway. Lewis's cottage sat at the edge of town, where the road narrowed and the houses stopped pretending to be close to each other. His car was still there, parked neatly, no dust, no damage, like he'd planned to drive it again. The front door was unlocked. I stood on the threshold longer than I meant to, because something about the place felt paused, not abandoned, waiting. Inside, everything looked ordinary in the way that makes your skin crawl. Shoes by the door, a mug on the table, curtains half drawn, as if someone had stopped mid-motion. There were no signs of panic, no struggle, no mess. It was as if Lewis had stood up, taken one step, and stepped out of the world. On his desk, I found a notebook. Only one page had been written on. Record everything. They don't like being ignored. Underneath it was his phone, already open. The last video he recorded was 8 seconds long. I didn't sit down. I didn't turn on any lights. I stood there in Lewis's cottage holding his phone, like it might do something if I wasn't careful. The screen was already awake. The video thumbnail showed a dark street. No timestamp, no audio icon, just a still frame that looked unfinished. 8 seconds. That was all he'd recorded. I told myself there was nothing an 8-second clip could explain. I pressed play anyway. At first it was just the street outside his house. Empty, still, a street light humming faintly. Then the image stuttered, not froze, not buffered. It stuttered, like the camera was unsure which version of the street it was supposed to show me. Static crept in from the edges of the frame, thin at first, almost polite, then thicker, heavier. Something moved inside the distortion. Not walking, not stepping, shifting. The phone refused to focus on it. Every time the shape began to form, the image tore sideways, as if the lens itself didn't want to cooperate. But I saw enough. A figure, too close to the camera, too tall for the angle, and far too still to be human. No footsteps, no voice, no breathing, just presence. The clip ended before I realized I'd stopped breathing myself. I replayed it. Once. Then again. Nothing new appeared. But something felt different the second time. Closer. I locked the phone and set it face down on the desk. That's when I noticed the sound. Not from the phone. Not from outside. From the house. A low ticking, not a clock, not mechanical, too irregular. It reminded me of someone tapping a fingernail against wood and waiting for an answer. I checked my watch. It was still moving, still normal. But when I looked at the time, 11:54 p.m., I remembered what Mrs. Harper had said. Not midnight. Never midnight. I stood very still in Lewis's living room, listening to the house breathe, and understood something far too late. Lewis hadn't been recording the street. He'd been recording because something had already noticed him. I didn't stay in the cottage long after that. Not because I heard something new, because I didn't. And the silence felt intentional. Outside, the sky had slipped into a dull gray blue, the kind of color that doesn't belong to evening or night. Street lights flickered on one by one, each of them humming softly, like they were sharing the same nervous system. I stepped back onto the road. The town had changed, not dramatically. Not in any way I could point to and explain. It just felt smaller, closed in. Doors were shut now, curtains drawn tight. I passed a house where someone stood behind the fabric, their outline visible for just a moment. They didn't move. They didn't wave. They waited until I was gone before the light snapped off. I checked my watch again. 11:55 p.m. The air felt thick, like sound didn't want to travel properly anymore. My footsteps were too loud. Every breath felt like a mistake. That was when I noticed the chalk marks again. Fresh lines across doorsteps, across pavement edges, across the road itself. Not symbols, measurements. I stopped walking. The town didn't like that. Somewhere behind me, a door closed harder than it needed to. I started moving again, toward the square, toward the tower, toward the thing everyone was avoiding. The clock face loomed above me, painted hands, clean lines, permanent. 11:57. I stood just outside the shadow it cast. I don't know why I didn't step fully into it. Maybe instinct, maybe cowardice. Maybe the town had already taught me where I was allowed to exist. At 11:56, Harrow's edge began to disappear. Lights went out, not all at once, one house at a time, like someone moving through the streets, extinguishing them by hand. A dog barked once, just once, then nothing. Even the wind seemed to pull back, as if it didn't want to be involved. I stood alone in the square, the tower looming above me, the cottage behind me, the cafe dark now, its warmth already a memory. I thought about Mrs. Harper's voice, about the way she said the rules like she was afraid the words themselves might listen. I thought about Lewis, about his message, about the 8 seconds of footage that refused to show me everything. My watch ticked. 11:56. 11:56 and 40 seconds. I held my breath without meaning to. The town felt expectant, like something had noticed me standing there and was deciding whether I was worth the effort. I told myself I was overthinking. That's what people always tell themselves right before they stop trusting their instincts. The streetlights flickered, not out, just enough to remind me they could. I felt a pressure in my chest, not pain, weight, like being underwater. And then the sound came, soft, delicate, a single tap behind me. I didn't turn around. I told myself it was a branch, a loose sign, anything but what my body already knew it wasn't. Another tap, closer. The sound wasn't following me, it was testing me, learning what I sounded like when I existed. The clock changed without moving. I can't explain it any other way. 1 second it was a symbol, the next it was a signal. 11:57. The air shifted, not colder, heavier, like gravity had decided to pay closer attention. The shadows around the square stretched, not away from the light, but sideways, as if the ground beneath them had tilted. I heard breathing, not loud, not close, everywhere. I took 1 step backward. The tapping stopped. I took another. It started again. That's when I understood the rule. It wasn't following me. It was following the sound of me. Every footstep, every breath, every involuntary movement. The quieter I tried to be, the louder the world felt. I reached the edge of the square and turned down a narrow lane, heart pounding, lungs burning. And then I saw it. At the far end of the street, a white door, standing where no door should have been. No frame, no wall, no house, just a door, upright in the middle of the road. It didn't move. It didn't need to. Something behind it was breathing. I knew that without seeing anything at all. I stopped running. That was my mistake. The door vibrated softly, as if it was pleased to be noticed. The streetlights dimmed, their hum turning into a low whine. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't want to look. I already knew what it would say. But I did anyway. A message. No name, no number, just text. Come closer. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Another message appeared. We remember you. The door creaked, not opening, settling, like it was preparing for something. Then I heard my name, spoken calmly, familiar. Lewis's voice. Hey, it said. You found it. I took 1 step forward before I realized I was moving. Every instinct screamed at me to stop. The voice spoke again, gentle, patient. You don't have to be afraid. We only take what listens. I raised my hand. The handle was cold, and then someone grabbed my arm, hard, yanked me backward. I screamed. The sound exploded across the street. The breathing behind the door turned frantic, hungry. Mrs. Harper's voice cut through the noise. "That is not your cousin," she shouted. "It's the thing that learned him." She dragged me away. Behind us, the door shook violently, as if furious at being denied, and somewhere in the dark, the tapping became applause. We didn't stop running until my lungs burned and my legs felt like they no longer belonged to me. Mrs. Harper dragged me into a narrow alley between two houses that leaned toward each other, as if they were sharing a secret. She shoved me against the wall and clamped a hand over my mouth. Her grip was stronger than it looked. "Don't breathe like that," she whispered. "Slow it down. It listens for panic." I stared at her, trying to understand how panic could be something you could be heard by. The square behind us was silent again. Too silent. No footsteps, no voices, no tapping, just the faint hum of street lights trying very hard to sound normal. Mrs. Harper waited a full minute before she removed her hand. "Listen," she said, properly. I did. Nothing. And that terrified me more than the noise had. She nodded once, as if my fear confirmed something for her. "That means it's still deciding," she said. "And that means you need to learn the rules, not the polite ones, the real ones." She checked her watch. 11:58 p.m. Her shoulders relaxed just slightly. "You survived the first minute," she said. "That doesn't make you safe. It makes you visible." I swallowed. "You said there were rules," I whispered. "Tell me all of them." Mrs. Harper hesitated, the way people do when they know knowledge has a cost. Then she spoke. "Rule 1, she said. "You never go outside between 11:57 and 12:06. Not for anyone. Not for voices you recognize. Not for doors that shouldn't exist." My chest tightened. "What happens at 12:06? I asked. She shook her head. "That's when it lets go. Most nights. We don't know why. We just know that time starts behaving again." I wanted to ask what happened on the nights it didn't, but something told me not to. "Rule 2, she continued. "Lights off, always. Light gives it edges, and edges give it places to stand." I thought about the windows, about reflections. "No mirrors," she added. "No glass, no watching yourself breathe." The words felt wrong in my head, like they didn't want to be understood. "And rule 3, I asked. Mrs. Harper closed her eyes. "If you hear someone you love between 11:57 and 12:06, she said, "you do not answer, you do not reply, and you do not correct it when it says your name wrong." My heart skipped. Why would it say my name wrong? She opened her eyes. "Because it learns in pieces," she said, "and sometimes it guesses." A distant sound drifted down the street, a soft scrape, like something heavy being moved very carefully. Mrs. Harper stiffened. "That's why there are more rules," she whispered, "and why Lewis got curious." She looked at me. "And why you're in danger even now." Mrs. Harper didn't want to talk about Lewis. I could tell by the way she avoided his name, like it might pull his attention back to us. but I needed to know. Not for closure, not for comfort, for survival. You said he got curious, I said. What did he do? She didn't answer at first. Instead, she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out something small, a USB stick, old, scratched, the kind people keep long after better options exist. He wanted proof, she said quietly. He thought if he recorded it properly, if he treated it like evidence, it would have to behave. My stomach tightened. That never works, I said. She gave a humorless nod. No, she replied. It doesn't. We stayed in the alley, the walls pressing close, the town still holding its breath. Mrs. Harper spoke again. Lewis followed the rules at first, better than most. Lights off, curtains closed, no wandering, no noise. She paused. But rules like these don't scare everyone. Some people see them as a challenge. I knew Lewis well enough to hear the truth in that. He started recording before the minute, she continued, setting things up, tripods, angles, testing microphones. What was he trying to catch? I asked. She shook her head. That's the problem. It isn't something you catch. It's something that notices effort. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I flinched. Mrs. Harper shot me a sharp look until I silenced it. Rule 4, she said softly. No technology between 11:57 and 12:06. Not live, not recording, not even checking the time. I stared at her. You never mentioned that one. She met my eyes. Because most people don't last long enough to need it. She took a slow breath. Lewis decided sound was the key. He thought it followed noise, so he tried to map it. Footsteps, breathing, whispers. Her voice dropped. And then he made his mistake. What? I asked. He listened back, she said. I frowned. To what? To himself. She explained it slowly, like she was afraid the memory might break. Lewis had recorded the street at 11:57, not video, just audio. He stayed inside, lights off, curtains closed. He followed every rule except one. He listened. He told me later, she said, that the recording sounded wrong, too quiet, like something had erased the space between sounds. She swallowed, and then, underneath his own breathing, he heard another version of it. My skin prickled. Another version? I asked. Mrs. Harper nodded. His breathing, but slower, closer, out of sync. I imagined it, didn't want to. He thought it was an echo or interference, so he listened again. Her hands trembled slightly. That's when it learned him properly. I felt cold despite the close walls. What do you mean? She looked past me, down the alley, toward the dark street beyond. It copied him, she said. His rhythm, his pauses, the way he hesitated before speaking. I thought of the voice I'd heard near the door. Too calm, too familiar. And when did he disappear? I asked. Mrs. Harper's eyes filled, but she didn't let the tears fall. "He went outside," she said, "3 nights later, just for a moment, just to see if it would respond to silence." My throat tightened. "And it did," she whispered. She leaned closer, her voice barely audible now. "It didn't take him immediately. It let him walk, let him breathe, let him think he was fine." She closed her eyes. "Then it used his voice to knock on my door." Mrs. Harper didn't look at me when she said it. She stared at the bricks opposite us, as if the memory was written there and she couldn't stop reading it. "It knocked the way Lewis knocked," she said. "Not loud, not desperate, just familiar." My mouth felt dry. "You opened the door," I said. She shook her head immediately. "No, I followed the rules. Lights off, curtains closed, no sound." She swallowed. "But I stood behind the door, and I listened." The alley felt tighter. "He said my name," she continued. "Not shouted, not whispered, just the way he always did when he wanted tea." I felt something cold slide down my spine. "He even paused," she said, "in the right places, like he was thinking, like he was deciding whether to ask for sugar." My chest tightened. "How long did it knock?" I asked. Mrs. Harper closed her eyes. 6 minutes. I counted without meaning to, from 11:57 to 12:03. "And then," I said. "It stopped," she replied. "Not because it gave up, because it had learned enough." The words hung between us. "That's when we added another rule," she said. "One we don't like to say out loud." I waited. "If you hear someone you love," she said slowly, "you do not stand near doors, you don't listen, and you don't remember the sound of their voice while the minute is happening." My throat tightened. "Why?" I asked. Mrs. Harper finally looked at me. "Because memory makes noise," she said, "and it can hear you thinking." A faint sound drifted through the alley. Not a knock, a shuffle, like feet being repositioned carefully. Mrs. Harper's head snapped up. "That's too close," she whispered. The street light at the end of the alley flickered. Once, twice. The hum changed pitch, dropping into something lower, heavier. I felt pressure behind my eyes, like the world was trying to lean in. Then I heard it. My name. Not spoken. Tested. As if something was rolling it around in its mouth. Mrs. Harper grabbed my wrist. "Don't answer," she breathed. "Not even in your head." The voice tried again. This time, it sounded almost right. Almost. I clenched my teeth and stared at the wall, counting bricks, counting breaths, counting anything but the sound. The clock in the square chimed once. Midnight. The pressure lifted. The hum returned to normal. Silence rushed back in like it had been waiting its turn. Mrs. Harper let go of my wrist slowly, as if afraid the world might notice movement. Her voice was barely audible. "It knows you now," she said. "Not because you spoke, because you listened." I felt cold settle into my bones. "And it doesn't knock forever," she added. "What does it do instead?" I asked. She looked down the alley toward the dark street beyond. "Sometimes," she said, "it waits for you to leave the town." We didn't speak again until we were inside my car. Mrs. Harper shut the door quietly, like the sound itself might be counted against us. The engine turned over too loudly. I winced, but nothing answered. The streetlights stayed steady. Midnight had passed. The rules had loosened their grip. I pulled away from the curb without turning the headlights on at first. Mrs. Harper noticed. "Don't," she said. "Not yet." I eased the car forward in the dark, guided only by memory and the faint outline of the road. "You leave slowly," she said. "You don't rush, and you don't look back. It notices urgency." The town slid past us. Houses dark, curtains sealed, windows blind and reflective. No one watched us go. That was worse than being watched. At the edge of Harrows Edge, where the road narrowed and the fields began, Mrs. Harper finally exhaled. "You can turn the lights on now," she said. I did. The beams cut across hedges and damp grass, revealing nothing unusual. Just countryside. Just road. Normal. My chest loosened slightly. "I'm taking you with me," I said. "You can't stay here." She shook her head. "I can," she replied. "And I must. It knows me. It doesn't follow what it already owns." That sentence sat heavily between us. I slowed the car. "I'm not leaving you," I said. Mrs. Harper placed a hand on the dashboard. "You already are," she said gently, "and that's how it prefers it." She told me to stop. There was a lay-by just beyond the last sign marking the town limits. I pulled in. The engine idled, loud in the open space. She opened the door and paused, one foot on the ground, one still inside. "Listen to me," she said. "When you leave, you don't talk about this place like it's over." I frowned. "You don't say it was," she continued. "You say it is. You keep it present, because the moment you treat it like a memory." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. She stepped out of the car, closed the door softly, and walked back toward the dark road without looking back. I watched her until the headlights couldn't reach her anymore. Then I drove. The road out of Harrows Edge is straight. That's important. No turns, no forks, no distractions. You drive long enough and the town should dissolve into fields, then into nothing worth remembering. That's what I expected. It didn't happen. 10 minutes passed, then 15. The road stayed the same. Same hedges, same broken fence post on the left, same dip where the asphalt sagged like it had grown tired. I slowed down, then stopped. The engine ticked as it cooled. I got out and stood in the middle of the road. The night was still, too still. No insects, no wind, no distant cars. I walked to the fence post. The wood was damp, real. I touched the road, cold, solid. I wasn't looping. I was moving forward. And still, nothing changed. I got back in the car, heart pounding now, and drove faster. The dashboard clock caught my eye. It read 12:14, then blinked. 12:13, then corrected itself. I told myself it was a glitch. That's what Lewis would have said. I reached for my phone. No signal, no notifications. But the screen lit up anyway. A single photo filled the display. A white door, standing on a road I recognized. My road, the one directly ahead of me. I dropped the phone. The car drifted slightly before I corrected it. My pulse hammered. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I drove. The headlights caught something ahead, not blocking the road, standing beside it. A shape, tall, still, watching. I passed it without turning my head. I told myself I hadn't seen it clearly. I told myself that mattered. The road finally changed after that. It widened. A junction appeared. A sign. I took the turn without reading where it led. Only then did my chest loosen enough to breathe properly. Only then did I realize my hands were shaking. I didn't stop driving until the sky began to pale. Morning arrived slowly, like it wasn't sure it was welcome. I pulled into a petrol station just off a main road and sat there with the engine off, listening to the normal sounds of life return. Cars, voices, movement. I went into the shop, bought coffee I didn't want, and stood in line like a person who belonged somewhere. The cashier smiled at me. I almost cried. When I got back to my car, my phone buzzed. I froze. Then I told myself I was being stupid. It was just signal returning. Messages flooded in. Missed calls. Normal things. Then one message appeared at the bottom of the list. No contact name. Just text. You left early. I stared at it. My thumbs hovered over the screen. I didn't reply. I turned the phone face down and drove. I didn't go home. I went anywhere else. Anywhere that felt far. That night, in a hotel room that smelled like bleach and carpet cleaner, I lay awake listening to the building breathe. At exactly 11:57, the air changed. Not heavy, not loud, just attentive. I didn't check the time. I didn't move. I didn't think about doors. Somewhere, very far away, something waited. And it knew I knew. I told myself the hotel was temporary, a place to sleep, a place to reset, a place where Harrow's edge couldn't reach me. That was the lie I needed to function. The truth was quieter. The truth was that I didn't trust my own house anymore. Hotels have rules, corridors, fire exits, other people breathing through thin walls. That felt safer than silence. I stayed awake until morning, watching the digital clock on the bedside table crawl forward 1 minute at a time. It behaved. I checked it again at breakfast. Still normal. I left the hotel at noon, drove for hours, and crossed more towns than I could remember. I didn't stop until the sun was setting again. That's when I made my first mistake. I went home. The house looked the same as I'd left it. Lawn untouched, door locked, windows dark. Nothing waiting for me. That should have reassured me. It didn't. Inside, everything smelled familiar. Dust, fabric, old air. I walked from room to room, turning on lights, opening curtains, making noise on purpose. Nothing responded. By the time night fell, I'd almost convinced myself that Harrow's Edge had been a closed system, a place with borders. At 11:56, I was in the kitchen. I didn't notice the time consciously. I felt it. That pressure, that attention. I froze. The clock on the microwave read 11:56. The seconds ticked. I didn't move. 11:57. Nothing happened. No flicker. No sound. No change in the air. I exhaled slowly, heart pounding, half laughing at myself. That was when I saw it. Not in front of me, behind me, in the reflection of the dark window. At first, it looked like a trick of light, a pale shape behind my own reflection. I turned slowly. The kitchen was empty. I turned back to the window. The reflection hadn't changed. Behind me, where the hallway should have been, there was a door. White, unmarked, standing upright where nothing existed. I didn't hear it arrive. I didn't hear it breathe. But I felt it. The air around it seemed occupied. I remembered Mrs. Harper's words. Windows are invitations. I stepped back. The reflection stepped with me. The door stayed the same distance away. My phone buzzed on the counter. I ignored it. It buzzed again. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, the reflection was clearer. The handle was there now. The door wasn't in my house. It was in the idea of my house. That's when I understood the last rule. It doesn't travel through space. It travels through recognition. The phone buzzed a third time. I looked. A message. No name. A photo. My kitchen. From the angle of the hallway. From behind me. I dropped the phone. The sound echoed too loudly. The handle in the reflection turned. Just slightly. I ran. I didn't grab keys. I didn't grab shoes. I ran out the front door and didn't stop until the cold burned my lungs. I stood in the street, barefoot, heart hammering, and waited for something to happen. Nothing did. No door, no sound, no attention. The street lights hummed normally. A car passed. A dog barked somewhere far away. Life continued. I laughed then. A sharp, broken sound. I told myself I'd imagined it. That stress had finally tipped me over. I went back inside. The house was empty. No door, no reflection. Just rooms, just silence. I slept on the couch with the lights on. The next morning I packed a bag. I didn't make plans. I didn't pick a destination. I left. Days passed, then weeks. I stayed with friends, then rented short-term places, then stopped unpacking altogether. Every night at 11:57, I stopped whatever I was doing. I didn't check the time. I felt it. Most nights, nothing happened. Some nights, my phone vibrated once. No message, just a reminder. I learned what it wanted eventually. Not me. Not yet. Attention. Listening. Memory. Because the moment you treat it like it's gone, like it was a story that ended, that's when it gets closer. That's when doors start appearing where you're not looking directly. I don't know how many places I've lived since then. I stopped counting. Addresses don't matter when something knows your habits instead. I don't film anymore. I don't record at night. I don't listen to old audio. I especially don't listen to my own voice after midnight. Sometimes when I'm alone, I hear tapping, not near me, not far away, somewhere adjacent, like something checking whether I'm still paying attention. That's why I'm telling you this now. Not because I think you can help me, because knowing the rules keeps you alive longer. If time ever hesitates around you, if the air feels like it's listening, if you see a door where there shouldn't be one, don't approach it. Don't speak to it. And whatever you do, don't correct it when it says your name wrong, because it only needs to learn you once. After that, it just waits for you to forget.